Hi, everybody. It is Sunday, April 11th, and I wanted to do a lecture since we're nearing the end of the semester and we have a few more projects coming up. I haven't really talked to you in this format in a while, but I know you have been following along with my lectures. You've taken the quiz, you've done your research paper. So we're now in the final 4 weeks of the semester, essentially. Tonight, April 11th, if you happen to be watching this tonight, your rough draft for your poetry paper is due. So make sure you turn that in to the rough draft paper number 3 folder under the essays column. I will be reading those rough drafts and making comments. If you write more than 500 words, that would be wonderful, but I do not have time at this point in the semester to read a full rough draft unless you specifically make an appointment with me to live stream together. So either a Monday evening, it doesn't seem like anybody is available Mondays during the day for my office hours, or any other time, you'll just need to email me and let me know. So I will read 500 words of your rough draft and provide comments. As the weeks go on, I have decided to change up the calendar and the assignments just a little bit. You won't be doing anything extra, of course, but you may be doing less than what you had originally planned. So let me go over what the weeks ahead hold. This coming week is actually week 13, April 12th through the 18th. And I have posted these new assignments at the top of Blackboard. So you can look there. You don't have to memorize everything from the lecture. There are 2 new poems, and they're actually the final poems that we are responsible for on the syllabus. I will be posting lectures and notes on those poems in this week's folder, week 13. The poems are called Harlem and Barbie Doll. And Harlem, you already know, because it is the epigraph or the beginning poem of A Raisin in the Sun, thinking back to the very beginning of the semester when you read A Raisin in the Sun. And we'll talk a little bit about A Raisin in the Sun as we talk about the poem. The other poem is called Barbie Doll. Due April 18th, so that is a week from today, Sunday night, will be discussion board number 5. So check the discussion board folder periodically throughout the week on the left bar of Blackboard for any more information on the discussion boards. And then in week 13's folder this coming week, I will be posting the assignment for the poetry multimedia project. So all of that is coming up in week 13. Week 14, you will actually post a short paragraph telling me which poem you've chosen for your project. The poetry project, just to give you a tiny hint about what you'll be doing, you will be choosing a poem of your own from the section in the Norton Anthology, page 585 to 636. And if you don't have access to that, let me know, and I will find a way for you to see what those poems are included in that. What that section is about 50 pages or so of poems that fulfill many of the different categories, such as speaking, situation, language, word choice, imagery, internal and external structure. All of those things you'll be talking about in your poetry project. They're just more poems that the Norton Anthology published for us to study. And some of the poems that you've studied this semester have been from that section of our book. So the Wednesday, April 22nd, that's in week 14, you'll have a very brief explanation or paragraph due of which poem you've chosen. And then April 25th, that is actually 2 weeks from today, Sunday, April 25th, is when the final copy of paper 3 will be due. Then we move into week 15. Readings are finished for the semester. Week 15, it goes into the beginning of May. Due Sunday, May 2nd, will be quiz number 6. And then we go into the final week of the semester, which is week 16. Your poetry project will now be due on Wednesday, May 5th. I actually am moving it up 4 days because you have plenty of time to work on that project. You will email that project to me, and I'll talk more about that in the next few weeks. Due Sunday, May 9th, which is technically the last day of the semester, will be discussion board number 6. And then due May 12th will be your final exam if you decide to take it. And this is what I was talking about earlier in the lecture by saying you may have less to do and not more. That is, I am going to grade your poetry presentations. Once you turn them in on May 5th, I will grade them between the 5th and the 10th or 11th. The 11th will be my deadline. So that'll be about 6 days to grade them. And if you like the grade on your poetry presentation, the final project of the semester, then you can use that grade for both the final and the poetry project. So essentially, that'll be 30% of your grade. If you don't like the grade on your final poetry project, then you can take the final. And so the poetry project will be 15%, the final will be 15%. So you won't really know which route you want to take until I've graded your poetry project. Now, this poetry project is not the same thing as the poetry paper. Everybody has to write your poetry paper. You know, we've written one paper on each genre. You wrote your first paper on A Raisin in the Sun. Your second paper was a research paper over one of the 2 stories. And your third paper is now analyzing 1 or 2 poems off of our syllabus. So the poetry project, which is your final semester project, and I will be posting the assignment and the parameters of that project. You don't know exactly what you're doing yet. I will be posting that, and that is where you can decide after you receive the grade if you want to take the final or not. So the final, if you decide to take it, will be due on May 12th. And I will post the final by May 10th, approximately 9th or 10th. So I don't think that many people will choose to take the final unless you completely bomb your project. Or if you don't get a perfect grade on your project, you may decide you want to take the final. There are different reasons as to why you may want to take it, but I just don't think a lot of people will choose that at the end of a very long semester, a hard year we've had with COVID. I hope some of you are getting your vaccinations now. I know I've been double vaccinated since March, so it makes me happy to be able to go out and do things a little bit more without worrying. I'm still being cautious. I'm not throwing caution to the wind yet, but it has been a hard year. So I'm hoping we can end this year very well, and continue to talk about and learn about poetry. So those are the main things I wanted to talk about in this lecture. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me. Again, tonight is when the poetry rough draft is due. And the final copy of your poetry paper is due April 25th. So look at the top of Blackboard. I have all of these written instructions, and they will pretty much supersede what I have written on the calendar. Now, there is one final thing I would like to sort of teach you again, because a lot of you missed this on the quiz, and that is discussing the rhyme scheme of a poem. This may be something you want to do in your analyzing a poem paper. I'll also talk about MLA format for poems. So I want to see if I can move the camera to my other screen, and that way I should be able to show you what's going on with the um, document here. I suppose this is working, so let me go ahead and do this. These are two stanzas from Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. And so when you discuss the rhyme scheme of a poem, what you do is you start with the letter A, right? And the letter A would be the word no. And does though rhyme with no? Yes, it does. So we label that A. Does here rhyme with though or no? No, that's B. And then we go to snow, and that's A. Now, the next stanza, we do not do the same thing. This is where a lot of you got tripped up, although I actually don't think I counted this off for you on the quiz. Queer, does it rhyme with snow or here or though or no? Yes, queer rhymes with here, so queer is B. Near is B. Lake. Does lake rhyme with near, queer, snow, though, or here? No. And so that's C. And then year is near. And so let me kind of move this camera. So hopefully you can see this. Whoops. Well, of course it's backwards. So you can sort of see, even though that's backwards right now, you can see A, B, A, B, B, C, D. Okay, so that was a little bit on the rhyme scheme there. If you still have questions on the rhyme scheme, I may wind up providing you some more notes on rhyme scheme as we continue on in discussing poetry. One more thing about citing a poem in MLA format. You want to, if the poem has line numbers counted in the book, you want to put the poet's last name in parentheses, then the word line, and then the number of the line. So I'm looking at the poems in the book are numbered. So that's how you would cite the poem instead of citing it by the page number. Now, if the poem is not lined, not counted by lines. So if you found the poem online, for instance, and it doesn't actually count the line numbers, you don't have to count the line numbers yourself. You can just quote it and then be done. Like if you were citing a story or a play from online, you don't need a page number or a line number. But the line number will be helpful if the lines are already counted for you. Remember, you need to incorporate direct quotes into your rough draft, into your final copy. That is something that tripped up a lot of you on the research paper because you were so concentrating on the research, you forgot to include quotes from the main text. And now that you don't have to do research, perhaps you will go back to understanding that you have to quote lines from a text. Another thing about using poetry is you want to put a slash between two lines of, like a front slash between two lines of poems. And again, I will post the format for that. That slash goes between the lines if you are quoting both of the lines in quotation marks or more than one line. Now, if you're quoting an entire stanza, just write out the stanza. So write the 4 lines or the 3 lines of the stanza, how they look on the page. Those are just a few of the differences in how to quote MLA style. You do want a works cited page still. You don't have to have a works cited page with your rough draft. So all of that, I'm sure you can come back to this lecture, or you can look online, or I'll have something posted for you before the final copy is due. Anyway, I think that's all I have for now. I hope you have enjoyed your weekend, and we'll be looking forward to a good week ahead. Bye-bye.